Okay, we're going to talk about how to factor a trinomial like this. And the title of this video is Best Factoring Hack Part 2. So obviously there is a Part 1, and I'm going to go ahead and actually link this video to that Part 1, or you can find it in my algebra playlist. But in Part 1, what we focused on was how to factor a trinomial where the leading coefficient was just 1. Okay, so if you had like y squared plus 10y plus 8, and this is a 1y, that was our first part. Okay, there's a great hack on how to approach that, but that technique we can kind of use as well for handling a situation like this where the leading coefficient is not 1. So if you know how to do these techniques, you can handle quadratic trinomials, and it's really going to upgrade your factoring skills as a lot of students have difficulty in factoring. And if you can't factor, you will not be able to be successful in algebra. So we need to fix this up for you and really give you some techniques that you can follow that will guarantee you to get the right answer. So I'm going to get into this in just 1 second. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher, and over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. You can find a link to my math help program in the description of this video. But basically, I have 100 plus different math courses. I have all the basic courses, or the main courses, rather. So like pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. I'm going to be launching pre-calculus here shortly, college algebra. I have all those courses, but I do a lot in the area of test preparation. So if you're studying for tests like the GED, SAT, ACT, a teacher certification exam, AccuPlace or CLEP exam, there's a ton of different reasons why people are studying math outside of a math class. So if you're studying for any of these particular type of exams, I likely have a test prep course for you. So you can just go to my site and check out my course catalog. And if I don't have your exam, go ahead and just drop me a note and I'll give you my best advice. I also work with independent learners like homeschoolers. I have a great homeschool learning program. And then obviously I help those of you out are struggling in your math course. But one thing you need to be doing to help yourself out is be taking great math notes. It's just something over the decades that I've seen. Those students who take excellent math notes almost always have great math grades, and the reverse is true. Those students who are just distracted, talking to their buddies, all the things that I did for sure. And this is without cell phones, or smartphones. But if I had a smartphone back in a 1980s, I don't even think I would have graduated. I was already distracted enough. These little devices, they're awesome, but they're completely distracting. And what you need to be doing is focusing. Okay, you got to focus. That is the key to success. Okay, and in learning anything, you got to learn how to focus. And evidence of you being engaged and focused is your notes. Okay, so you got to work on your note taking. Obviously, you're watching this video because you're interested and learning mathematics. But I'm telling you right now, to really master math, you got to have fantastic notes. But as you improve in your note taking, I actually offer detailed comprehensive math notes to include pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2 and trigonometry. You can find a link to each one of those notes in the description of this video. All right, so let's do a quick summary here of just factoring in general. All right. So when you're studying algebra, you need to be able to do things like this. Let's say 2x squared plus 4x. So this factoring situation here would require you to be able to handle or do the greatest common factors. So this is where you always start when you do factoring. Okay, you got to know about the GCF, right? And you always start with greatest common factor. And by the way, too, if you need any help with any of this, these topics that I'm kind of doing a quick overview with, you can check out my other videos on my channel in my algebra playlist. I have a lot of factoring videos, or better yet, you could just jump into one of my courses like Algebra 1. I really go into a ton about factoring, really teach it very comprehensively. Okay, so you need to know how to factor using a GCF. Then you need to know how to deal with special situations like this, x squared minus 4. Okay, and there's other type of special scenarios, but this is going to be x plus 2 times x minus 2, and this is an example of using something called the difference of two squares. and it's a special factoring rule. So you're going to need to know some special factoring rules. You're going to need to know how to deal with the GCF, and then we need to know how to deal with trinomials. All right, these are kind of the main situations they're going to be dealing with in algebra. So there's two flavors of trinomials. There's things like this. Okay, let's say it like that, and then there's something like this. All right, and I'm just making something up just to kind of illustrate my point. Okay, now part one of my factoring hack video, we went over trinomials that had the 1x squared or 1a squared. It doesn't make a difference what the variable is, but basically that leading coefficient is 1. Okay, so there's a great technique that you can follow to always get these guys right. Okay, but that technique we can kind of extend to deal with the other type of trinomials, and that is where their leading coefficient is a number other than 1. Okay, so when the leading coefficient is other than 1, well, then we have to do something additional, and this is going to be part 2. Now, by the way, I want to let you know that there are some other techniques that you can use to factor. Okay, not many other ones. There's the guess and check, and there are good techniques as well, but oftentimes students struggle with that or they forget. So what I'm going to be giving you here is like a procedure that you can follow each time, okay, for this scenario and this scenario to get these guys right, okay? And that's very important because factoring is critical, okay? It's the really foundation to so many things that we do in algebra. Okay, so I would suggest that if you haven't watched the part 1 video, after you watch this, check out the part 1 video or go back, check out the part 1, then come back to the part 2. But if you're going to learn the part 2, which we're going to be learning here, then you should obviously know the part 1. Okay, so let's get to it here. And here's an example. So I'm going to explain this and then we're going to do a couple practice problems. All right, so what we do is the following, okay, and this is very similar to the part 1 video that I did. So here we have 3y squared plus 10y plus 8. We want to factor this. So what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do for all these problems is first you're going to make sure the trinomial is in standard form, highest to lowest power. So your y squared or x squared term here, and then x or y, and then your number. So you're going to take this leading coefficient, you're going to multiply it by that last number. So that's going to be 3 times 8, that is 24. Okay, so what do we do with 24? Well, we want to look at the factors of 24. Now, I got a bunch of stuff written down here. Believe me, you're not going to have to do all of this when you practice this technique, okay? But I want to really kind of thoroughly explain this for this particular example problem. So let's look at the factors of 24. I always like to start with the factors of 1 and then just kind of increase on this column here. So I'm starting with 1, 2, 3, 6, whatever from the lowest number factor to the highest number factor. So you'll kind of get the idea here. So when you write factors of any number with this procedure, there's always 2 pairs. So we're talking about the factors of positive 24. Okay, so it's going to be 1 times 24 and 1 times 24. Just write both of these down and then put the negative signs on this one because positive 1 times positive 24 is, of course, 24, and negative 1 times negative 24 is also positive 24. So we just do the same here. 2 and 12, negative 2 and negative 12, 3 and 8, and negative 3 and negative 8. And notice here I'm increasing 1, 2, 3. The next one, I could have wrote 4. Actually, matter of fact, let's do that. Let's just fix this up here, 4 and 6, so I could be consistent. I'm trying to teach you something here, so you know what? Let me just follow my own little, I've kind of caught that here, negative 4, negative 6. Okay, so you can kind of see the picture here, what I'm doing. I'm listing all the factors, and I think pretty much we covered all of them or most of them. Okay. Now, at this point, what are you trying to do? What's the whole idea behind these? Well, you want to be thinking of the sum of these factors. So in other words, 1 and 24, if I add those individual factors up, that's 25. This is a negative 25. 3 and 8 is 11. This would be negative 11. So you can kind of get the idea. And I'm looking at the sum, and I want to find the pair of factors that add up to this number here. Okay, that's a positive 10. All right, so if you just kind of look through, you kind of scan through this, you'll see that oh, 4 and 6, this adds up to 10. So this is the factors here that I want to be interested in using, okay? So let's just kind of review what we're doing. We take this number, 3, okay, we multiply it by 8, we write down that answer. It's 24. We list our factors down, and then we go through and look at the sum of the factors such that we're looking for the sum that this number here, whatever this number, whatever these values are, matches to this middle number, okay? So once you found that, okay, these are the values that we're going to be using. Now, let's suppose that you list all the factors down and there isn't any number that matches that middle number. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that the trinomial is prime. It cannot be factored, okay? All right, so what do we do now? Well, what we're going to do at this stage, I'm going to kind of erase this, okay, is we're going to rewrite 10y. Okay, we're going to rewrite that using these numbers here, 4 and 6. So 10y is the same thing as, I can write that 10y as 4y plus 6y, or 6y plus 4y. Both of these here is, this problem is the same. In other words, 3y squared plus 10y plus 8, I could write that as 3y squared plus 4y plus a 6y plus 8. Okay, so I'm not breaking the problem, I'm just writing it. I'm splitting up that 10y. Now, you might be asking, I'm using these factors to break up that 10y. Could I write the 6y and the 4y? Yes, you can, okay? But with experience, you'll see that sometimes it's more advantageous to write one number next to another number. But even if you wrote the 6y over here and the 4y over here, you would still get the right answer using this technique. Okay, so here is our 10y. We just broke it up as 4y plus 6y. Now, what we're going to do at that stage, okay, once we've done that, we're going to do group factoring. Group factoring. We're going to look at the first two as one group and the second two as another group, okay? And they're going to factor out the GCF, all right? Okay, now I know, the first time out you might be like, oh, this is very hard, or no, just stick with me. This is pretty easy stuff, all right? Just stick with me. Of course, you got to practice it. So when I factor out the GCF here, I have 3y squared plus 4y. The GCF is y, okay? So I can factor out a y, and that leaves me with 3y plus 4. All right, now if you don't know how to factor out the GCF, you're gonna have to go back and review that because that's a kind of foundational skill before we get into trinomials. Now here, 6y plus 8, I can factor out a 2 because 2 times 3y plus 4 is going to be 6y plus 8. All right. So at this point in the problem, we're almost done. Look here, I have a 3y plus 4 and a 3y plus 4. It's the same factor. When you use this technique, okay, and you get this number matching this number, and you got this factor, you'll always end up with the same factors, okay? So you're kind of going to factor out that factor, if you will. So that's going to be, one of our factors for our answer is going to be 3y plus 4, and the other one is going to be y plus 2. And there you go. Okay, so you can see y plus 2, that's one factor, and then 3y plus 4 is the other, and we are done. Okay, we just factored this guy right there. So you might want to just, pause and kind of think about this. Better yet, maybe even take a few little notes. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and do some practice prompts here. Again, you won't have to write all this stuff out. You'll get better at this technique. And I know at first glance it might seem like a lot of work, but believe me, a lot of students, if they're facing this kind of problem, they'll be like, very sad about it, and they'll be like, I forget how to do it, and they'll struggle with that guess and check method, which is still a good method, but you still have to kind of guess and think about things here. This is a direct procedure. So let's go ahead and practice this now. So here's the two prompts, okay? So we're going to do these two prompts. If you want to go ahead and give these a shot, I'm going to go ahead and solve these here in just 1 second. But if you want to pause the video and work on these, see what you can come up with, that'd be great. All right, let's take a look at our first problem. Okay, so there's our second problem. Let's focus on the first problem. Okay, so here we got 2. We're going to multiply it by 10. Okay, so 2 times 10, that is 20. Now, I'm thinking about factors of 20 that add up to 9. That's what I'm thinking about. So I'm thinking, 1 in 20, there's no way I can get a 9 out of those factors, right? I'm going to either get a 21 or I will get a negative 21. So what's the point of doing that? I'm thinking, okay, 2 and 10, there's no way I can get a 9 from that. But how about 5 times 4? That's 20. And yes, I can definitely get a 9. And there we go. I just found it, 5 times 4. So this is what I'm talking about. You don't have to list all the factors, but sometimes you'll need to. Okay, maybe when you're starting off, you can list all the factors. If you haven't found them, then you have to kind of in an organized way, make sure you can list all those factors. But this is what we want because 5 times 4, the sum of those factors is 9. So this is what we're going to be using. We're going to use a 5 and a 4 to rewrite that 9. Okay? All right, so we're going to write our 9x as the factors 5 and 4. Now, this is a good example. Should I put this as 5x plus 4x, that's 9, or should I write this as 4x plus 5x? Well, I would say here, I'm looking at, I know I'm going to have to do group factoring, so I know 5 is a factor of 10, so let's write it as 4x plus 5x, okay? But if you did it the other way, you'd still get it right as well. Okay, so we're going to do this. We'll do it like 2x squared plus 4x plus 5x plus 10. Okay, let me write that a little bit better. Okay, so again, 9x is the same thing as 4x plus 5x. We're not breaking the problem. We just split up 9x in a way that's going to help us out. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and group factor each of these guys. We're going to take the GCF out. All right, let's focus on this first one. So here I can take out a what? 2x. That leaves me with an x plus 2. Now, notice here, I got an x plus 2. This x plus 2 better show up over on this side or I'm doing something wrong. So plus 5, I know I can take out. So that's going to be x plus 2. Okay, so I'm anticipating it. I'm like, yep, that's right, because 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 2 is 10. And now I can take out a x plus 2, and what's remaining is a 2x plus 5. So my answer is 2x plus 5 times x plus 2. That's it, okay? Now, if you got that right, definitely give yourself a check mark, give yourself a happy face, a few stars, and an A+, okay? That's, you're doing excellent, all right? Again, your ability to factor is critical, and this is just a procedure, and you'll get better at it, all right? But this is how it works. Now, there's more complicated problems where you'll have to list out more factors to find them, but the procedure is still the same. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our last problem here. All right, so again, we're going to start with this number. Okay, it's still in standard form, highest to lowest power. 3 times 4, of course, is 12. And I'm thinking factors of 12, that add up to 13. 1 times 12 is factors of 12, and that adds up to 13. I'm not even going to list out the other factors, so I'm like, okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to use these guys to rewrite 13a. Okay. So which way we'll do it? Well, we know that 12, okay, is 4 and 12 have factors in common. So we'll write this out this way. 3a squared plus 1a plus 12a plus 4. Okay, so I'm writing out my 13a as the sum of 1a plus 12a. Okay? All right, so we're, kind of just following the procedure. Now I'm going to group factor. And when I group factor out the GCF out of each one of these groups, I should get the same factor if I'm doing this correctly. So let's do this first one. So here I can factor out an A. That leaves me with 3a plus 1. Okay. Plus here I can factor out oops, I wrote, some of you are probably screaming at the video like, oh, you wrote that wrong. See that? I caught myself. Why? Because I'm always double checking. So I'm glad I made that error, because you're going to make errors. That's guaranteed. The key is, are you going to catch them as you go by double checking. Okay, so here I can factor out, this is my second group, I can factor out a 4. So that leaves me with, I'm expecting a 3a plus 1, and I'm getting a 3a plus 1. Okay. Now just don't write 3a plus 1 down there. Factor that out. Make sure because if you didn't get the same factors, then you're doing something wrong. Okay, so here 3a plus 1 is going to be one of my answers. 3a plus 1, and the other one is going to be what's left over, a plus 4. A plus 4. And if you got that right, then definitely give yourself a gigantic smiley face. Matter of fact, give yourself one of those 1980 mohawks. Yes, we used to wear those things. I didn't wear a mohawk, but I had a lot of friends that did. It was pretty cool. But anyways, so that's good stuff. If you got that right, man, you throw in a couple A pluses and a 100%. You're doing excellent. All right, so here's the thing. Let's go and wrap this up here. Okay. And let's go back to where I was talking about factoring in general. All right, so obviously we're using the GCF. If you don't understand how to factor out the GCF, then again, there's plenty of videos that I have in my pre-algebra, algebra playlist. Better yet, again, you could just go into my algebra course and really learn this stuff. But you got to start with the GCF when it comes to factoring, right? Then you're going to move on to trinomials. So take a look at that part 1 video so you can factor these basic case 1 trinomials, quadratic trinomials, and then obviously you're going to move on to this video, part 2. Again, put all this stuff in your notes, and then later down the line you need to know these special factoring rules, of which like the difference of 2 squares, sum of difference of 2 cubes, which I'm going to be making a video here shortly about. Once you know all of that, then you're going to be pretty strong in factoring, which means you are going to have a smoother time at algebra. And that's the whole purpose of this video, is to give you hacks, tools, techniques, so you can, approach mathematics without, stressing out. Okay. We don't want you to stress. We want you to enjoy. But again, as I stated here, all right, you watch this video to improve in math. I'm telling you, decades of experience, I know my stuff. Is like, listen, follow what I'm saying, okay? You can trust my advice. Let's just say that. There's a lot of things. Don't trust me on spelling. Don't trust me on a lot of other things. There's a lot of things I can't do and don't know about. But one thing I'm very strong at is teaching mathematics. Been doing it for a long time. You just see these trends. So these techniques, put into your notes and then practice them, okay? And as you practice this will become a skill, into your long-term memory. All right, so if you like this video, if you thought, oh, this will help me out, please consider smashing that like button. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, please consider subscribing. Been on YouTube for a long time, 10 plus years, have hundreds and hundreds of videos organized, basic to advanced math on my channel, all there for you. And I'm posting new stuff all the time. So you definitely want to subscribe if you like my teaching style, but my best resources will be found by following the links in the description of this video. All right, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.